Now, in 3 years' time, the joint committee, joint parliamentary committee, is going to have a look at this body, its legislation. If in fact things haven't worked out the way that I think they can work out, I'm proved wrong, they can consider whether there is more power or not. But you know, we're not an answer to every problem in the community. The Ombudsman should have some responsibility, the Auditor General's got responsibility, there are a number of integrity bodies, we've got our people.
All of those bodies fall back on each other, don't they? All of those bodies aren't secure in themselves. I mean, you've got a medical council, you've got a medical complaints tribunal,
yep.
All of these things, they go hand in hand, they skip like Hansel and Gretel down a path together. They won't sort of like find a flaw with the other. Well, if you've got an integrity commission in the police, they'll skip together like Hansel and Gretel down a path. They don't sort of like want to come up against each other. They will wriggle and squirm like worms or crabs crawling across sand to do anything other than confrontation.
Well, that's your view.
No,
that's your view. There might be a view for other bodies. I'll tell you this one, if we have a question, the police will be a question.
Yeah. Well, it should be. That's what we're looking for.
But we're in early days and things have to work out. But if we establish that there was misconduct in part of police, there'll be a report to them. So I won't be hiding from it. No, I don't think Barbara or anyone else in our commission will. But we'll wait and see what happens, what comes up. I mean, a perception can be that we're cooperating with people. And I mean, one of the things we have to do under our act, we've got 19 people, we've got 3 investigators. We've got 4 at the moment, we've got 1 seconded. I mean, sometimes we're going to have to rely upon the department, whatever it might be.
You never rely on the ombudsman.
Well, I'm not talking about the ombudsman, I'm talking about other departments. We might have to go to a department and say, look, here's the problem we've identified, or here's the problem we've got a complaint about, here's the problem we've read in the newspaper about. Please respond, tell us what's going on about this. Now, we just simply do not have the resources. But the fact that we will do that doesn't mean we're hand in glove with it. And the fact that you know, you've mentioned police, well, one of our jurisdictions.
That's Barbara's sort of like formal wing.
Not mine.
No, but it is Barbara's.
But people come from different jurisdictions, different backgrounds. I don't think that's a reasonable proposition.
No, I'm not saying anything.
As a barrister, I could for plaintiffs, I could for defendants.
She could be a breath of fresh air because she isn't nepotistically sort of like employed like you said. So I think there was a reason for that sort of like earlier. You know, like when you said sort of like conflicts of interest, etc. in small communities. So sort of like coming from WA was a little bit sort of like fortunate.
Well, I don't know that it was fortunate, I think it was intentional. I think it was intentional to have a CEO from outside, not from this police force.
That sort of like June, sort of like October period of.
We'll come back to that. I want to answer that question. I don't want to answer it right now. I want to deal with the issue of our powers. We can require people to produce information. We can use entry, search and seizure powers. We can use surveillance devices in certain circumstances. And we can give directions to parties to answer questions. We can refer criminal matters to DPP, and we can publicly disclose by way of report misconduct. However, as I said, we have no sanctions or we can't lay criminal charges. Our solution for these things through our legislation is public exposure through recommendations or public reports. In terms of directions to answer questions, and that's something you raised a minute ago, we don't have the power of the Crime Commission. We do have the right to ask questions and to require answers, but the common law rights of not being compelled to incriminate yourself, the common law rights of legal professional privilege and so forth are still available to people. So we do not have those Crime Commission type powers. Our current work, so far we have had sessions with more than 1,700 people across the public sector in local government, University of Tasmania stakeholders. We're having ongoing meetings with senior public officers to identify training and capacity needs, and that's happening here in Launceston tomorrow with a variety of departments. And we have developed training packages to support principal public officers and to assist them to deliver internal training in integrity and ethics. We have been monitoring and auditing internal investigation processes, including a number of investigations of significant public interest. As of today, we have received about 110 complaints. Each one of those complaints can involve multiple allegations against multiple persons. We are also well advanced with a major research project. I might just go back to the monitoring and auditing. Two of those processes are the subject of significant public interest and have been made public. One relates to a fatal shooting and the other relates to the use of capsicum spray on a 13-year-old Burnie, and that's in the public arena that we are monitoring and auditing those investigations by the police force. I might deal with the complaints. We've received complaints about many government agencies and a number of councils. We've received more complaints in the south and the north than from other parts of Tasmania. There's the west and the east. That probably reflects the population basis. I have had some feedback from some complainants that we're taking too long to deal with complaints. I'll turn to answer a question I was asked a minute ago, what Barbara was doing between June and October the 1st. What Barbara was doing between June and October the 1st was, first of all, employing people, interviewing people, setting up processes, obtaining somewhere a house to live in, computer processes, setting up a variety of pretty complex arrangements for a brand new institution, endeavouring to work out the budget. So an awful lot was done, and I reject the proposition she was being squired around by
No, I didn't know.
So,
I was curious as to know whether or not she was in any compromising positions in that interest.
well, she's not.
If she was like...
I'm sure you wasn't.
She wasn't. I mean, look, we get funded by government.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously one could say, well, hang on, if they want to turn off the tap, you're in trouble. And that might happen. I mean, let's be honest, we all know what's happening in this state at the moment. There are budget cuts. And we're on a pretty thin financial number at the moment. But if that's fairly done across the sector, that's one thing. If our funds are cut dramatically, we don't operate. So obviously, during that period of time, I was working with the government directly in terms of funding, in terms of support, in terms of setting up computer processes. As I said earlier, our email address is a government email address, and it's simply because we do not have the capacity to have our own computer system. I prefer that we did, but we haven't. So that's what was going on between June and October, and I might say I was approached about doing this late August, and I was pretty astonished by what Barbara had achieved in those months with pretty thin resources. I think when I came down here first in September, you had 8 people working for you in a small office overlooking Constitution Dock, and then on the 1st of October the organisation started. When we started, I think we had about 11 employees. It took till January before we got even a deputy CEO, when we had 19. We currently have 3 investigators. As I said, a fourth. We've got 4 actually at the moment, because one of them is seconded, but will presumably be going back elsewhere in due course. That significant body of complaints came in pretty quickly. It went to 60, I think, within about 2 months of I was hoping, 60 within certainly 3 months, and it's risen to well over 110. As I say, those complaints can involve multiple allegations. So we're a pretty small body dealing with a lot of work. Now, some of those complaints perhaps are straightforward. Many aren't. Many have come with enormous quantities of documents. Part of the issue is that, with the exception of code of conduct complaints, there was no statute of limitations placed on complaints that could be made to us. So many complaints are old and they are difficult to analyse and look at without going through significant numbers of documents. So there are some issues there, and I would just ask people to be a bit patient, because we don't have all the resources in the world to deal with this number of complaints with only a fairly limited staff. Well, I do want an opportunity. It's obvious that some of the people want to talk to us in some detail. We are continuing this regional outreach program, so if some of you think of some questions between here and there, you can come over to Queenstown in a month or so. We'll be doing a similar thing there. We have put out as much information as we can. Barbara and I are determined that this body will be as transparent as we possibly can be, subject to our obligations to maintain confidentiality in some areas. We have developed memorandums of understanding with key agencies, including Tasmania Police. Now, that's not being in their pockets. That's setting up processes when they will report issues to us that we might not otherwise know about, as well as dealing with such things as deaths and justice. There's been a significant amount of work done on legislative amendment. I've seen the Attorney-General, I've spoken to the Joint Standing Committee on Integrity. I don't think this is surprising. This is a new and very different piece of legislation. You just couldn't pick up the legislation from Western Australia or New South Wales and start again. It just couldn't be done. So Parliament passed this. I think probably everybody in this room is aware of the fact that it was passed relatively quickly. So it's not surprising that issues in the legislation have arisen. We need to take care about those issues. We need to get them resolved where there is a problem. At the same time, we can't take chances and have something go wrong because we've not complied with the Act. So there's been a lot of work done in that regard. I just want to tell you something that you might be interested in. I suspect some of you have got your own perceptions about government, and perhaps that's why some of you might be here. A survey was done relatively recently, and from the viewpoint of the Commission, the majority of Tasmanians who were polled said that they thought that in a small place like Tasmania, issues of conflict of interest where people know everyone, know each other, is a source of trouble. And I think that's fairly typical of the support that Tasmanians showed in the survey for the existence and the role of the Commission.
I think you get 60 complaints in the first 2 months. Let you know that they met with the Integrity Commission.
Well, that's perhaps so. On the other hand, Tasmanians also indicated a strong belief in the necessity for honesty and truthfulness on the part of those in public life. They thought that there would always be some dishonesty, unethical behaviour and corruption in the public sector. In fact, quite a considerable number thought that. In fact, 90% of respondents agreed that there would always be some dishonesty, unethical behaviour and corruption in the public sector. I must say that turns out to be a not dissimilar figure to other states. It's not unique to Tasmania, but certainly it's a high number, and I must say I was surprised about it until I found out there were similar views held in some other states, particularly in New South Wales and Western Australia. Another thing that came out of the survey which was undertaken was that the great majority said they would be willing to provide information about misconduct to the Integrity Commission. Some of those people no doubt would want to do it on the basis that they have protection, that they won't be punished by employers or by others for having done so. And that places a significant burden upon us to ensure that the trust that those 86% have is justified, and that's something we'll be working at pretty hard.